Good morning, Warrior TV. My name's Kerry Duval, the Warrior Queen, and today I'm joined by Kerry Bay, the Human GPS, and Caroline, the Rainbow Warrior. Hi, ladies.
Hi, Kerry.
How are you?
Great. Very good. Thanks very much.
Very good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm glad to be back. A little bit nervous this morning. Don't know why the nerves are kicking in. But
That's okay. That's okay.
Well, it happens. I've enjoyed my week off though.
Yeah. You're safe. You're safe with us. We're just having a little chat.
Yeah. No, obviously this morning we'd come on to talk about you, Caroline, to talk about how you came about to being the Rainbow Warrior and joining the Mental Health Warriors. So tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, well, it's kind of a long story, but I'll try to keep it short and sweet. So I suppose, I kind of took a bit of a pivot, I guess. I'm a graphic designer by profession. So I worked in the corporate world for many years, and then I started my own design company with my husband Alan, called Bennis Design about 15 years ago, and moved from the corporate kind of world into working with more, our environmental projects and with government agencies in Ireland that were focused around, well-being. I suppose the HSE we have here in Ireland, it's NHS in Britain, which is, it's an equivalent. So I suppose well-being when it comes to your body, your health, your eating habits, and trying to change society and inform society about, the general public about how to look after themselves. And so I suppose my client base kind of changed that way, and also with Enterprise Ireland and Sustainable Energy Ireland, which was Enterprise Ireland is around initiatives, innovation and initiative and kind of global reach for Irish companies and trying to push innovation. And then SEI is around the sustainability and trying to bring sustainability into the workplace and push people to, offering grants to business and to increasing the solar energy and things like that, and informing the public as well, and they were all initiative based, we'll say. So that was kind of our client base, and then I started lecturing. I was asked to come in as an industry kind of lecturer in Griffith College in Dublin, and I absolutely love that, because the way sometimes you don't have certain aspects of yourself that you don't realize that you have. And the minute I started, even though I was very kind of sheepish about it, because the way anxiety started coming up, because I was kind of, I'd love to do it. I always, when I was a teenager in college, I always thought I'd love to lecture. But when you have to push yourself out of that comfort zone. So I used to be so kind of nervous, teaching a whole class of design students, because I started to cross-teach interior design students and fashion design students, design communications, design principles. And then I ended up on faculty, and I did a postgraduate in training education, and I progressed and more over about a 5-year period, and I designed and wrote academically for them a new course, which was design communications, and got that that went to QQI, and it's a new course in Ireland now. It was the first in Ireland to come. So there was an academic side of my life that I didn't understand I had that aptitude for as well. So the writing kind of started there. So I started, because I did a design degree, I didn't do an academic degree. So then I realized actually I had a bit, the lecturers were, Caroline, you're a really great writer and very succinct, and I was excelling in that, which I never thought I could. And that was kind of an eye-opener to me. And then I was asked to take over directorship of this new course. So it was kind of it was kind of growing, this part of my life, and the design side of it was kind of getting smaller. So then it was at a crossroads, we'll say, in my life, and I had to decide what to do, whether I'd go down the academic route and do a PhD and, become a doctorate of design and all that kind of stuff, or where would I go? And actually the funniest thing happened was the opposite happened, where I thought to myself, no, I actually want to simplify my life, and I wanted to go into retreat. So it was like as if I got a calling to go into, it was like as if, something with, the inner GPS, as you talk about, Kerry, I in one of my poems, I call it the lightsaber. And since I was a child, during all the things that I've done, I've always listened to this kind of aspect of myself, this inner kind of guidance system. And it kind of got me in trouble a bit, because no matter what anybody would say, I would never be taken off that route. And, whether parents or society or anything, it wouldn't really matter. I'd listen to them, I'd say, yeah, that's fine and everything, but I'll be going this way, And so it was kind of funny, because I had fantastic opportunities, but I was like, no, you're going this way. So it was kind of bringing me down into simplicity and back into retreat. And we started to renovate this cottage in the west of Ireland. And when I started to renovate the cottage, I went back to simplicity, and it was like as if I was going it was really monastic when I look back now, because I started to kind of, as I can see now, I was kind of stripping away everything. I was taking away all the opulence from life, like all the noise, all the materialism, all the accolades, even when it came to academic accolades. You would think that sometimes you have to get to this certain level to be seen in a certain way in the world, and all that kind of stuff. That was all drifting away, and I was letting go of all the desires and all the kind of identities that I had created for myself. So instead of creating brand identities, I was kind of disidentifying myself with the exterior world, and I was going into the interior world, and I was really questioning. And I suppose it was happening because I could see everything that was happening around me in the world, and I started to use my design process, we'll say, and my kind of research mind and my creative mind to say, how do we solve this larger problem, So it was kind of going into a reflection, so I had to take in the larger picture of life and humanity and where we are and where. So I did a research kind of year of where I went back to ancient times, and I mapped the process of human thought from ancient times right up to now, to see what was the cutting edge of our human thought. So if we're beings of energy, and everything is thought, and the thought becomes, materials, something that's material in the world, what's the cutting edge of that, and where have we got to, So, so that kind of brought me to understanding what our true nature was, and understanding what the blockages were around that, So, I suppose that was a transformational period for myself. So I became very solid in myself then, and I became very kind of, I suppose I came back into the world then with a different purpose and a different way of looking at life, and a different approach. And then the Rainbow Warrior book and my writing started to come from there. So, the Rainbow Warrior book was trying to bring down into the simplest form, I suppose the findings of what I found, which is, that we are creative beings, that our natural state is a joyful state, it's a creative state, it's a state of, we have access to massive amounts of imagination, we are loving beings, but it's the fear that blocks us, and that's the conditioning that we've had over centuries, and the many wars, and the intergenerational trauma, and everything, all the different traumas within our family life, within our country, within our society, within, it's actually the programming that is in our subconscious mind, and that the work is then, when we want to grow, we come up against this, and sometimes when we don't have the education and understanding of that, we call it, mental health issues, or we call it, and that's why, you have to be careful around identity, how we internalize an identity about ourselves, because really, in truth, life is about transformation, and the process of life is a creative process. and everything that we go through in life is teaching us. So it's like the book of life. The life itself is like a book that's informing us all the time, but we need to be questioning all the time, and we need to be consciously recreating ourselves and recreating our identity, so that we're kind of really, what we're doing is we're sculpting ourselves. We're knocking away everything that's not true within ourselves to reveal, who our true nature will say, So that's, I suppose, where the Rainbow Warrior came, because I thought really one of the most, on the first, we'll say, step of the transformation is understanding that our life is full of possibility. So the eye was kind of, the symbol for that, where, you have all the different colors. It's kind of all the different possibilities for our life. Because I think the root of mental illness is thinking that you're in a narrow corner and you've been backed into a corner for whatever reason, and you don't have a choice and you don't have a way out, and then you just go and you kind of collapse into yourself. And that the opposite of that is understanding that you have in each moment possibility, and that you have, even though when you're in the people say come into the present moment, sometimes the present moment is extremely difficult because you have to deal with the traumas that you've had since you were small, and then you have to try and address the fact that where you are isn't so good. But if you kind of build that resilience and take step by step, you can move out of these negative states of mind and grow and become whole in the world again. So it's a difficult process. So that's where I suppose I ended up getting friendly with Dorota, and Dorota had bought the book and she loved it, and she really connected with that kind of message, I'll say. Even though it's a children's book, she sees it as, really helped her. So we became friendly, and then she was I think when she saw Warrior TV, she thought it reminded her of the book, The Rainbow Warrior. So then she invited me on, and I was delighted to meet all these wonderful warriors, and I wasn't on my own anymore. There's plenty other warriors.
Yeah, so obviously your life pushed you towards the Rainbow Warrior, and then you ultimately became a part of the Mental Health Warriors.
Yeah, exactly. And then I started last year, I pivoted the business. So I started Flourish by Design, which myself and my husband had Bennis Design, and then I started this new enterprise myself, which was based around working with conscious branding, conscious design. So the interior design of the mind, and then the exterior, how does that show up in the world, and looking at, trying to change the culture in business to conscious business. So it's looking at how does business look after their staff? How do they look after the environment? What brands are ruling us? What kind of messages are going out into society that are actually causing people to, have negative identities within themselves? How are we manipulated by the world of branding? How are we being, and trying to bring education to people around that, and also to try to support eco products and eco innovation that is inclusive and kind of holistic, so, bringing the whole kind of personal identity, and then the wholeness in industry as well, and business. So I'm only starting that. So that will be growing and doing lots of different things, and online courses and things like that. So there's lots to mushroom out of that, So yeah.
Yeah, there is definitely, and one of those things that's going to mushroom from that is you're going to start your own show on Warrior TV.
That's right. Yeah. Around conscious communication. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's another thing we're going to talk about. That's why I brought Kerry Burr in this morning, because we're also going to touch on communication.
Yes.
Because obviously it is important to communicate. With World Mental Health Day just a few days away now, obviously the Warriors are going to put out a special post for that. I'm not going to say too much because Adam might shout at me. But communication, it's very important, because asking each other, are you okay? Just those 3 words, are you okay, could mean everything to a person when they're down. I mean, certainly when I was down a few days ago, having Adam saying, "Are you okay?" Having people messaging me, "Kerry, are you okay? How are you?" Simple things like that meant the difference to me, from wanting to just grab my phone, grab some money and go and just spend some time on my own, to staying at home and dealing with the issues I've got to deal with. So those 3 words were that powerful to me. I mean, what do the words "are you okay" mean to you? We'll start with you, Kerry.
Well, exactly that. Are you okay? How are you feeling? What are you thinking? What's going on inside here at this particular moment in time? And this is where I communication is so important, and there are different forms of communication as well. It's not just the spoken word. It's what we're thinking, what we believe is real at this moment in time. And what we believe is real at this moment in time for each of us will be very different, based on our own environment, our own experiences, and how we're feeling at that moment in time as well. And I loved what you said, Caroline, about sort of that internal design, and almost recreating who we are as individuals. And communication is a huge part of that, because we're more than just who we appear to be to other people. You are more than the rainbow warrior. I am more than the human GPS, and Kerry, you are more than the warrior queen, a lot more. And again, with regards to the communication side of it, it is very much a case of it's our physiology as much as the spoken word.
Yeah, it is. I mean, obviously, as you say, we are more than just our titles on Warrior TV. Obviously, away from Warrior TV, I'm a mum, I'm a wife, I'm a friend, I'm a daughter. Obviously, I've got a few personal issues with family members at the moment, but I'm very close to my dad, and obviously, I'm still his daughter, and I'm still obviously worried about him in the current situation he's in, but life goes on. And I'm sure you're the same, partners, friends, daughters. We're all away from Facebook, we're all our own people. And obviously we all have life that gets in the way sometimes. And this is why it's important to communicate, because sharing a problem can help to sort a problem out. I know I forgot to do that. I forgot to talk to my warrior family. I mean, without the warriors behind me, I don't know where I'd be right now, because that's how bad things got in the last few days. But
also, in that respect, I think sometimes, we do need that time out. We don't always want to be talking about what we're thinking, how we're feeling. There are times where we do need to have that time out and just sort of get things organized in our own minds. Where are we right at the moment? Exactly how am I feeling? Why am I feeling that way? Why am I having these thoughts? Where have they come from? What can I do about them? We're all very, very different, very different. And whilst we all can really get something from speaking with other people, equally we can get something from just purely sitting in silence and going within, and really focusing on what's going on there and working out for ourselves, how do I change this? What would be more useful?
Yes, asking questions is really important. It's actually, that's the root of creativity. So really, what you're talking about there, what I hear you say, Kerry, is that it's important to open a reflective space. And I think sometimes I would say that on a daily basis, if we can at all, to try and create a reflective space in your life, like opening a window.
Yeah.
For the relationship with yourself, because I would definitely agree with, yes, we all have many different roles in the world and we have many different titles, but actually to get to the truth of who we are, that's the deep relationship that we have with ourselves. So that's the number one on your list. That should be top priority, is the uncovering of that deep relationship with self. And on the deepest level of that, self becomes like a capital S, and the self becomes like, I'm part of life itself. I'm not just one individual. So you're like an individual, and then you're part of life itself. But when you can, it's like opening up, when you sit and reflect and open a reflective space, what you're actually inviting in is that kind of intuitive inspiration. And when you ask the question, you're starting that relationship, you're starting to cultivate a relationship with life. So, you have relationships with lots of different people around you, and they all have their own issues and their own kind of, but the higher intelligence is where you will get the deepest guidance and what's true to you. And what's true to you, you'll feel in your body, because you get a rush of energy. And uncovering that is the work, because when we sit in silence and sit with ourselves, a lot of this time it's difficult, because up comes all the trauma, up comes the emotions that you haven't actually listened to or felt or expressed. You haven't had the experience, the space or the safe space within your life to be able to kind of listen to that kind of inner child that needs that kind of that loving, compassionate listening, And I suppose as you do that, you cultivate a safe space within yourself, so then you can kind of be your own mother, we can be your own parent, that you can say, no, it's okay, I know you're feeling this way, but we'll work through it, and we'll listen to it, and we'll feel it, and it's okay, it's just emotion, and then it dissipates and it goes. And that's a process. Some days you sit and you feel great, and other days you sit, but actually what you're doing is letting go of stagnant, frozen trauma. And then what happens then is you get like 200% more energy, because the frozen part of you has defrosted, and the energy that you've used to keep that frozen is available to you as well. So then you become more active in the world, because you've got more positive energy running through you. So I would say definitely that opening that window of reflective space for yourself, that is creating that beautiful relationship with yourself, is really like an archaeology, It's like a digging. You have to dig deep to try and uncover that.
Yeah. So obviously communicating your feelings with people, talking to people with an echo. But yeah, communicating with other people, talking about your problems, it can work wonders. But obviously, like you were saying, self-care is very important as well. Obviously, this is why I took a step back from the Warriors and I focused on some self-care for myself. Got a few jobs done around the house. Sorted the garden out, which now I can look at the garden and think, I did that. I'm proud of myself for doing that. And obviously, I'm glad Adam said to me, just go on, Kerry, just go and start it, and obviously I'll help you. It didn't end up helping me, but I did it all on my own, and I am proud of myself for doing it.
Yeah.
But obviously, because of the issues, there's still that little bit of me. I'm not 100%. Sorry if I'm coming across a little bit down. I'm not 100%, but I'm back. And I think doing this is going to help me get back to being me, completely me.
Yeah. Yeah, well done. And it is that, but you're always coming back a new person. You're never going to be the same, because you're growing all the time. So, it's a growth process. Life is always making us more whole,
Yeah, it's like Karen Unruh says, we have to go through shit to grow. So I'm going through shit at the moment, so I'm growing.
Yeah, that's it. It's an opportunity to grow.
Absolutely. I also think it's knowing what to let go of as well, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Excuse me. I mean, Adam's asked a question in the comments. He did a live video this morning on fear. So his question for all three of us is, when you hear the word fear, what comes to you? And it's like you were talking about programming earlier, Caroline. You know, we when we come into this world as human beings, we're not born with fear. It's something that we've learned. It's a behavior that we're taught. And, you know, we learn it from our parents, our grandparents, as we get older, from other peers in our environment, you know, our friends, our teachers, our neighbours, you know, and it's, we can't blame those people, because they're just teaching us what they were taught and what they believe is the right thing for us. And it's a way of helping to keep us safe. The problem then is when we start to feel that fear, anxiety, fear, whatever, it's because we're dealing with something, or our unconscious minds are trying to deal with something, or our inner selves are trying to deal with something that we don't have all the information for. Okay. Now, fear can be extended to things like phobias, which obviously is an irrational fear. And that, again, is something that we generally learn, but we might not necessarily know where it's actually come from. But generally, fear itself is something that is learned. And of course, like with anything, because we've learnt it, we can essentially unlearn it.
Yes, and the first step is becoming aware of it, isn't it? You know, because I think for a long time I didn't realize that I actually had suffered with anxiety. It was so funny, because when you're being like that your whole life, you often think that it's a normal state of kind of being hyper aware, you know. And it's, you know, it's not until I started getting I had irritable bowel syndrome and I had headaches and things like that, and I couldn't understand what was happening. And, you know, no remedy would kind of work really. It worked for a little while and then it wouldn't work again. So I started to question then, what was this? And I thought of it, was it an energy in my body? Like, and I started listening to my body more, and it's kind of like, you know, as if it was revving, you know, like a car that was on rev all the time. So then I started to, that's why I got interested in kind of meditation and stuff like that. And I found that really helped to calm down my nervous system. So the more I sat with that, it was actually calming down my central nervous system. And I did, you know, a lot of training with mindfulness and things like that, and started to understand the neuroscience behind it. And I got really fascinated with it then, because you start to understand, you know, the fight, flight, or flee, you know, or the or fawn. And then I started understanding, become more aware of myself, then how I am in relationships. You know, and I realized I was a people pleaser, and I thought that was the way to be. Like, of course, like, you do everything for everyone and you leave yourself completely empty. I actually remember thinking, it took me a while for that to sink in, that wasn't healthy. You know, that was a complete revelation to me. And I then had to kind of look to see, where is this showing up in my life, and where can I redesign this, you know, interior design of how I should be in proper relationship with people, and where are boundaries, and like all these words were like foreign to me completely. And because I suppose I was probably on hyper alert all the time to go and fix everything, or to, you know, make everything perfect, or to just, you know, and that took a lot of energy, you know. And you know, self-awareness is so important. I think that's the journey, isn't it? So kind of connecting to yourself, becoming self-aware, and, you know, understanding, you know, kind of educating yourself around what a healthy relationship looks like, or relationships look like. And, you know, it's kind of reprogramming yourself, reprogramming your mental system, you know, and it takes time. It takes a long time for that to really kick in. And I don't know if you've experienced with that, Kerry, yourself.
Yes. Yeah. Pretty similar, actually. You know, I can remember, years ago, the doctor saying to me, you know, you've got IBS.
Oh, really? As well?
So, of course, the instant that you believe that you have an internal issue with your digestive system, you know, you're sort of telling yourself that you've got a problem and that it's there, it exists. And so, you know, it persists to sort of bother you, for want of a better way of putting it. And there have been times when it's been really quite severe, and other times where, you know, I've been quite able to keep it under control, as it were. And it all came about because of the amount of stress I was allowing myself to feel, because of the things that I was allowing myself to think, because of what I was allowing myself to believe, and because I was allowing myself to basically please everybody else other than myself. So I did a lot of things that everybody else wanted me to do, because I thought at the time that that was the right thing to do. And I kind of figured, because I've always been quite a headstrong person, you know, I've always been fairly strong-willed and known what I wanted. But I got to a point where I started to believe that, you know, well, actually, it doesn't really matter what I want. It's what I'm supposed to be doing. And actually, depression kind of set in after I came to a realization, my own personal belief, obviously, that, you know, this is what life is about. It's not about doing what I want to do. It's about doing what everybody else wants me to do and keeping them happy. So, of course, it was just everything was piling on top of each other, and I was allowing it to happen. Now, you'll notice here that I keep saying I was allowing it to do, you know, I was allowing myself to do this. Because the bottom line is, and I can't stress this enough to people, and I get that, you know, people don't necessarily believe things in quite the same way that you and I do, Caroline. But we are individuals in our own right. We have to look after ourselves before we can even be expected or be able to look after anybody else. It's like, you know, you've got to put your own oxygen mask on first, essentially. And I learned this quite a long time ago, probably in my sort of mid 20s. I was in a position where I needed to do a basic first aid course. And one of the very first things that they teach you is to make sure that the incident, if you like, the area itself, and you as the first responder or first aider are safe. Because if you're not, then you've got to make sure that the area is safe before you can go in and help the injured party. And it's exactly the same in any walk of life. In every walk of life, you've got to look after yourself first. And it is about having those boundaries. Absolutely. You know, we can allow those boundaries to be crossed if we choose. And again, it is all down to choice and what we allow to happen in our lives. And if somebody's asking us or expecting us to do something that doesn't resonate with us and it doesn't sit well with us.
Mm-hmm.
And we get that little voice in the head that's going, no.
Mm.
Or we get that gut feeling that's saying to us, this isn't right. We absolutely do not have to do that.
Mm-hmm. But
it is all about looking after the self first. And the sad thing is that, most of us are brought up to believe that that's being selfish, and being selfish is a bad thing.
Mm.
And it's really not. It's really not.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to us as individuals and looking out for ourselves, it's really not. It's actually a really good thing, and it's essential.
Yeah. It's essential because you're mirroring to everybody else around you. So whatever, I think it's about kind of realizing in each moment what you are creating within your words. Like we're talking about communication again. Like if you were to just even take the words that you use and how you speak to people on a daily basis, a lot of the time it's automatic. You say things that your parents have said or society would say or whatever. But when you start to become conscious of that and start to understand that, is this actually me speaking, or is this just a conditioned pattern speaking? And when I say this, how is that affecting other people around me, either negatively or positively? So when you talk about feeling guilty or about putting yourself first, really it's actually you're looking after other people when you start to connect to yourself, because you become a safe space. You become conscious of what you're saying and how destructive you have been in the world. You're taking responsibility for your actions, where before you might have said hurtful things, destructive things. You might put people down, you might have gossiped, you might have, said all these negative and put that out into the world. And that is just a destructive pattern, And then when you come back to yourself and put yourself number one and say, no, I'm taking responsibility for the words that I say. And then you the other people start mirroring that. And then they realize, oh, I've been doing the same thing. And they realize how good they feel around you and how better they feel around you than they do with people who are, being unconscious about their language even, So that has a massive ripple effect, and then they start questioning other things and other people, and then they start questioning everything. And it just has this huge ripple effect to, building this conscious culture, because the conscious culture begins with the individual. It begins with the individual deciding, no, I'm taking responsibility for my actions, for my words, for what I say, and I'm not going to get it right all the time, but I'm going to try. Each day I get up, I'll do my best, and you just have to keep trying until eventually it becomes kind of normal to you. And you get a lot more energy from that. You meet much more beautiful, enriching people, and become a kind of a protector for your family and a protector for your society and a protector for your environment, because a disconnected, that's what the Rainbow Warrior is about. It's about connection to yourself, connection to your relationships, we'll say, and connection to the planet, because that's where mental health comes. When you're disconnected, you don't have a community. You're actually putting yourself at risk of, a predator coming along. If you're disconnected from your community, you are easy bait. So when you are putting yourself last, and if you are putting yourself, so the fact that you're actually totally disconnected from yourself, you're actually putting yourself at risk of becoming a target from, a predator, somebody who has not toxic, narcissistic people are that's bait, So really, it's the best thing you can do for yourself, for your society, for your family is put yourself and really number one.
Yeah, definitely. And we've had a question from Adam. Question, you were talking about relationships. Obviously, there's a difference between, question for you all, there's a difference between relationships, I think he's getting at. Question for you all, what does the perfect relationship look like for you all, especially with yourself? Personally, perfect relationship would be with my best friend, supportive, loving, there through the good and the bad. And I think I've got that with Adam. It's not perfect, but I've definitely got the elements that I need for the perfect relationship. But I think for myself, lots of self-care. You've got to look after yourself first. Obviously, I've been making sure that I've taken time for myself, doing things that have made me feel better. So obviously that's my opinion. So Kerry, what do you think?
First and foremost, for me, most importantly is that relationship with myself. Because if I don't know who I am and how I operate and what my boundaries are and you know what my desires are, what I want to achieve, what my purpose is, then if I don't love myself, and if I'm not truly happy with me and being me, then I guess I probably can't expect to have any kind of real happy, deep and meaningful relationship with anybody. As far as what that perfect relationship with someone else looks like, I would say that, being best friends is essential, but then being best friends with myself is also essential. But also, I think having that mutual understanding and respect, for each other as individuals, because we can be best friends with people, lots of people, but there isn't always an understanding or a mutual respect in every aspect. And that, to me, having that mutual understanding and respect in every aspect for the other individual is what's important to me. And, whether that actually exists or not, I have no idea. I've yet to find out. But there we go.
Well, Carrie, I think you're in a very healthy position now to have a proper relationship, because you have a proper relationship with yourself. And it takes that. And I think really what you're looking for is two autonomous beings that are, happy with themselves, that come together and that are mutually support of each other in their growth through life. Because, I think you have to be careful for this falling head over heels for somebody, because that is kind of collapsing yourself into somebody else and putting all of your love and all of your energy into one person. And then if something happens with that one person, then where your sense of self is annihilated. So to strong within yourself and somebody else who is strong within themselves. And when you become strong within yourself, you can see that in somebody else. It becomes really obvious, and it becomes really obvious who isn't, and you can choose wisely then. And then you can come together and you can consciously kind of create a mutually supportive relationship that is going to have challenges, but that you have the tools to help and support each other going forward. But that when they're down and out, that you're strong enough to hold them in that space as well. And, so it's kind of like, because, we all go through all those challenges we have all the time. And it's just, to be able to recognize that strengthens somebody, and to kind of, because I think when we're weak within ourselves, we become attracted to people who aren't so healthy for us, So the perfect relationship is to have that understanding of yourself, and then try to marry that up with somebody has been on that journey maybe as well, and that kind of really actually can really see it in you, that you've kind of done that work as well. And they're really kind of, actually, you'll find that people who have been on that journey of self-discovery kind of they just come together, and it's just like, they kind of get energized by each other. It's amazing to find those relationships, and not even just I find myself, it's not just not romantic relationships, but other people, and that mutual, like a bridge. I have one of my poems, it's called Intimacy Lives Between, and it's about the actual energy that is created within an intimate relationship, which is between friends, between work colleagues, between, people that you really connect with on the same level, we'll say, and that is really gold in the world, because that becomes a creative space, because you have the capacity to listen to them and what they're trying to bring in, and you're not mostly, when people hear that, they feel lesser than, because they feel, oh my God, they're doing better than I am. But when you're in that space, you've been on that journey, you go, oh, wow, that's fantastic. They're bringing this to the world. I'm going to support them bringing this to the world, because that's their gifts and that's their talents, and that's going to just flourish, and it's going to be healthy, So that, I would say, a perfect relationship is in a romantic and in friendship, is to try and, attract those kind of healthy, enriching people in your life, They really support you, and even when you're having time away, like Carrie, you took time off, that we have support around you. And you can feel that, and it's the unseen communication, the conscious communication that's unseen, but it's felt. You know that there's people there, will be there, with holding you in that transformation.
Yeah, the mental health warriors are amazing as supporting each other, and obviously that is one of the best relationships to have inside the warriors, because in our little group, whenever one person is down, we always put a little message. This person needs a bit of love, warriors, and we all send each other love, and instantly you feel like there's 14 other people in that group that are sending me love. I am important. And obviously it's time for me to then sort myself out, and I can give back for when the next warrior is down. Mm-hmm. We've done it with Karen. We've done it with you, Caroline.
Yeah.
And the warriors have done it for me. We've done it for Adam. Yeah. I mean, at one point, we've done it for everybody in there.
I mean, it's an awesome community. It really is, and I think as well one of the key things there is acceptance. There's no judgment being made, but there's absolute acceptance. And we can talk about anything amongst the all of us, if we choose to, and it is that support network, that mutual respecting, supportive, considerate, non-judgmental, accepting network, and that's what's so important. But equally, again, it goes back to what we say to ourselves. And I mean, a lot of people talk about affirmations, daily affirmations, and some people are like, yeah, they're really on it, and others like, really?
On the subject of affirmations, what's one affirmation that you really like?
Well, there are lots that I really like, and they're going to be relevant to me, and my life, my existence, my whatever it is that I'm doing, or whatever I need at that time.
So would you say you have a favourite one, or one that's there all the time?
Not necessarily, no. I mean, it can change from day to day. It can change from hour to hour, but it is so important. I believe it's really, really important to say to yourself, I am, and whatever the positive statement is, yeah.
Well,
so
it's
right now, and it's like sitting there going, oh no, I could never do that, so flip that round and say, I am fully capable of doing that. Yeah, you might not have the relevant skills or talent to or experience to do it right this second, but what's stopping you from learning? What's stopping you from going out there? It's something you really want to do, rather than listening to those other people that are saying, you can't do that. You'll never do that. I was told, you'll never do that. Look at what you were like at, the last couple of years at school. You hardly did any homework. What makes you think that you'll be able to study to do this, that, and something else? You'll never do that. And I'm like, but that was like how many decades ago?
Yeah.
I'm talking about now. And I know what it is that I'm meant to be doing and what I want to be doing. And I have this absolute desire and passion to do it. Yeah. And I went ahead and did it.
I love that, Kerry. Actually, it's funny. Yeah. And it's me, what you just said there is I am. That is the most important statement in the whole of humanity. That's what I got to in my research. I studied from ancient times right up, and I got to I am. And what that means is that I am what life asks me in this moment. So basically, when you get to that stage, you realize that you are co-creating with life. So I am what life is asking me to become. You have to come. So like the inner GPS, coming back to what that guidance is, and then what is life asking me to become? And often it's like, oh shit, I can't do that. But then I'll move into it. Okay, I need to learn. I need to grow. I need to get in. Okay, I have to step up here. So this is another growth period. So when you kind of realize that life is that design, the inner design, and then it shows up in the world. But the interior design is where it's at. So it's like that connection with yourself. Listening to what life wants you to do, be discerning about where to move in with your GPS, because you could go off this way completely the wrong way if you're not constantly listening to the inner kind of, what does it feel like? Am I doing this from my trauma, or am I doing this from my ego, or am I doing this this is what I'm supposed to be doing? So it's a conscious, like the connecting to the GPS, and then I am, and then whatever it is, and then the next it'll change again and again. So it's constantly being creative. And then, like, I love what you said about people, identifying you as the identity you were 20 years ago, and that's how they see you in their mind. But you have been updated about 50 times since then to get to where you are now, and then you're open to transforming again and again and again, because we have an invitation that we come into the world with to become. So it's like, I would say, it's like as if you got an invitation to a wedding, and it's in an envelope and it's put into your nervous system, and it's there. You can't open it and read exactly what it says, but you know that you're invited to the party, and you just have to keep trying to find out what that is. And eventually you do, then you get to a stage where you go, this is it. This is what I've been, it's like the pinnacle of it. You go, oh my God, everything that I went through my whole life up to this point, that's why I'm here, And then you just go, okay, great. Well, it's fine that I've gone through everything I've gone through, because obviously I needed to, and to be built up to the way I am now for this moment, So
absolutely,
it's genius, Life is genius,
really is.
Yeah, it's fabulous, and I love exactly what you say about that identity thing. And it's funny, because that's why I ended up a graphic designer, because I was creating identities all the time, and then I realized the interior identity and how we speak to ourselves is so important as well, because you're painting a picture all the time. It's like your backdrops there, you can change the backdrop anytime to a nicer picture, but you're the one who's painting it, so you're painting it through the words that you speak to yourself. So what are you consciously saying? And an awful lot of times, like, what you don't realize you're saying, it's like kind of in the subconscious. Like I constantly, at the moment, I'm going through stuff about money, and I'm kind of realizing, Jesus, I've all these kind of traumas and ideas that I didn't realize I had. So like, the more you progress, the more that kind of comes up, and the more you have to address, so it's like, it's an ongoing process that you're always kind of going through, and you're having to kind of feel into and to grow bigger, so I think it comes to a stage when you really don't care what people think, because you realize, you're so energized by the process of becoming this person or this whatever you're supposed to be in the world, that that becomes that falls away like scaffolding, just collapses,
And it's amazing when it happens.
Yeah.
One of the things one of the things I like saying to myself is I'm a warrior. And obviously that's one of the most important things to me. I'm a warrior. So in every aspect of my life, I am a warrior. Yeah. And I'll fight through the good and the bad and enjoy myself. And I'm at that stage where I don't care what other people think about me. I really don't. I've been through enough bullying and abuse. I don't care anymore.
It's interesting that you use the phrase "I will fight," and it's that word "fight."
Well, I fight my way through basically everything. So if I'm having a good time, I sort of want to stay on the good path. But obviously, I'll fight my way through the bad times, get back onto the good path.
I think it's interesting that again, it all comes down to communication, doesn't it? And the words that other people have used when speaking with us, and we take on those words. We take on the beliefs, the meanings of different things, and that's why I said I found it interesting that you use that word "fight." I will fight, and I think because this whole thing with mental health. I mean, let's not forget that mental health is a thing, the same as we have physical health. Mental health, we can have great mental health. I'm in a place right now where my mental health is probably the best it's ever been, because I know that I don't have to fight for anything. And if I take that word "fight" out of my vocabulary, out of my internal communication, I will achieve. I am achieving. Yeah, this is happening. This will happen. But why do we have to fight? Why do we have to struggle? Why do we have to use those negative words? We're all warriors. In the sense that we're not fighting. We're standing up for what we believe to be right to each of us as individuals and as the collective within the mental health warriors. That's how I see it. So yeah, I'm sorry, I had to say that because I just thought
it's all right.
That's a really good point, Kerry, because I have a pub called "I Do Nothing."
Okay.
And that speaks to exactly what you're talking about. Because I think when you get to a certain stage and you realize that you're in the car and you're steering it and you're keeping the eyes on the road, but you're actually not doing anything. Life is actually propelling you in a certain direction. Yeah. And I think the fight, I understand what Kerry is saying as well, that there is warrior is a really interesting word, because when I kind of came up with the rainbow warrior, I was thinking the rainbow was possibility and the warrior is truth. So the truth is kind of yourself, your own truth. So the warrior and the fight is keeping yourself in the present moment, because in the present moment, your truth is revealed. So it's not that you're actually doing anything, but you're actually not listening to the conditioning. You're not listening. That's the battle. The battle is to uncover everything that's being put on top of you as such. So that takes effort, and you need to be like a warrior, because you need to get up every day and you have to do it again, and you have to do it again, and you have to do it again, and you have to be constant, be like an army. That's why I said in the Rainbow Warrior, I'm raising an army of potential. So you're focused on your potential, you're focused on the training. So you have to be like, you know, looking after yourself as best you can, giving yourself that self-care, because actually with reflection and with transformation comes, you know, it can come tiredness. And, you know, at a certain stage, you need to sleep a lot and you need to rejuvenate, because you're in a chrysalis, you know, like the butterfly coming out. So there's a lot of energy and transformation. So when you kind of come out of like a state, it's a creative space. So even sickness is part of the transformation. Like, you know, if you're really conscious that, like, even if you get sick and you have a really bad flu, that in that process, you're being transformed. You might think, oh, it's just sickness, but actually you'll come out of that a different person, and you're letting go of something there that you mightn't realize, you know, that you actually needed that, and maybe you've been pushing yourself too much, and you say, no, you're to kind of slow down now, and you need to heal, and you need to, you know, so everything in life never wastes 1 second. It's always creative and intelligent. So you just need to get on board with that. And Kerry, like you're saying, that you're not, in that understanding, you're not doing anything as such, but yet I suppose the constant, it's both then, I suppose, because you constantly have to be conscious of the fact that you don't want to be ruled by your conditioning, you know, and you have to uncover it, because a lot of the time you're not aware of it, you know.
Yeah. And you know what? We could have this chat all day long.
Yeah.
We're over our hour slot. And yesterday, Steve got shouted at for going over his hour slot. So I'm gonna end today before we get shouted at.
Okay.
So thank you, ladies, for joining me this morning. I've had some fun. I definitely feel better after our chat, and looking forward to the next one. So and Karen Unruh is on at 1 o'clock with Natalie Blue. Am I right, Adam? Yep, Natalie Blue with Karen Unruh. Unruh? I bet that'll be interesting. So, final message is, as always, #NeverQuit, and look out for our video this weekend for World Mental Health Day. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.